Tonight, time's up on dining out.
I think we need bars. I think of like all the things we need right now.
Bars, restaurants, and movie theaters shutter their doors after a sudden spike in COVID-19 infections.
Some of which are unlinked and thus indicate community transmission.
Public health officials warning against gatherings of over 50 people, even though the vast majority of cases in Ontario have been mild. And you're not the only one begging for a bit of activity. The real-life happy feet as zoos across the world close to visitors. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. In an hour, the most extreme measures yet to stop the spread of COVID-19 come into effect in Toronto. The city's top public health official set midnight as the deadline for all nightclubs, concert venues, and restaurants to close. Ramna Shahzad joins us live along King Street. Ramna, you've been speaking to staff at bars and restaurants tonight. What are they telling you?
Yeah, Chris, so I've popped into nearly a dozen different bars and restaurants. Inside, bartenders, servers, staff, they don't even know if they're coming into work tomorrow, and they don't have much time left to figure it out. The city making its recommendations very clear. Bars, restaurants, music venues, they have until 1 minute past midnight to close.
I don't know, it just feels like the apocalypse.
Erica Deutschman thinks Canadians need bars now more than ever. But those hoping to partake in St. Patrick's Day celebrations tomorrow may have to rethink their plans. As of 12:01 a.m., amid the COVID-19 outbreak, Toronto's medical officer of health is calling on all restaurants and bars to stop serving customers and offer only takeout and delivery instead.
I guess they can't trust people to use their common sense.
Several businesses have already closed up. The only thing greeting customers, signs and apologies pasted on front doors.
I think everyone kind of needs to think beyond themselves and the greater long-term good. And if that means closing down some restaurants and bars, then it's probably for the best.
Monday nights are usually packed at Lost and Found nightclub, but tonight it will be dark and empty.
Everybody's out of work for now. We had artists booked that we had to cancel that were paid up front. We had accommodations for artists. This was a very big week for nightlife in general, especially with Persian New Year's. We had an event for Tuesday, which we had to cancel.
The decision to shut down, difficult but necessary, he says.
I know a majority of the people going to bars and clubs are younger, but it's all about affecting our older, the older people in our life, like our grandparents, our parents, and stuff like that.
With the midnight deadline looming, businesses are scrambling to close.
And you've got thousands of restaurants saying, but how?
Laura Silver is working with dozens of bars and restaurants like Petty Cash through the process. For some of them, it will be dire.
Yeah, I definitely think that all of the restaurants, certainly the ones that I've been speaking with, are taking the government's recommendation as an order. For many of them, they'll never open again.
So she says that if this outbreak is quashed quickly, then these businesses have a chance. And it's not just Toronto, it's cities across the GTA, Mississauga, Brampton taking similar measures tonight.
Ramna, this is serious stuff, and we know that it's not just restaurants and bars, but we also heard from Cineplex late tonight. Get us up to speed on the company's new plan.
Right. So originally, Cineplex had said that they were simply limiting capacity and upping their cleaning measures. But late tonight, that changed. The business saying now that they're, for the time being, going to shut down. Chris?
All right. Thanks for all this tonight, Ramna. Now, businesses who defy the calls to close could face a fine of up to $25,000 per day. Christiane Tetro runs an event space in Leslieville and chairs the local BIA. She says a long-term shutdown will be economically devastating.
I believe some of the longer-standing businesses here may be able to ride it out, but I think some of the newer businesses that have opened within probably the last 5 years, I don't believe they're going to be able to handle the impact.
Earlier today, the city unveiled a new economic task force promising financial help for some of the businesses affected by the closures. But we still don't know the details of how that money will be distributed. Now to the provincial response. In Ontario, we've seen 177 cases of COVID-19, 31 new ones just today. And now the Premier is pledging to help ease concerns around job security. Angelina King has details on the unprecedented plan for workers.
Is that 6 feet?
Ontario's top doctors say the situation is evolving quickly and the numbers increasing rapidly.
We have found the numbers of new cases have almost doubled in a few days.
Dr. Yaffe says many of those cases were exposed to the virus in the U.S., and we're now at the stage where doctors are no longer ruling out community transmission. To try and prevent the spread, Ontario's chief medical health officer says all gatherings of 50 people or more should be cancelled immediately. And so all daycares, churches, bars and restaurants should close. Places that provide food pickup or delivery can stay open for that reason.
Because this is unprecedented. We haven't done this before, and there's a lot of things that are being done on the move.
Amid all this, the province trying to alleviate stress on workers.
The last thing we want right now is for people to worry about job security.
The province is drafting legislation to ensure anyone who has to stay home from work because of COVID-19 won't lose their jobs. It would include people who are under quarantine and self-isolation, as well as caregivers staying home to look after kids while schools and daycares are closed, and workers who've been told to stay home by their bosses. It would also ensure workers do not have to provide sick notes to their employers. The legislation would be retroactive from January 25th, when Ontario got its first presumptive case of the virus.
The legislation we're announcing today will protect jobs for as long as this disease persists.
And the spring budget will be delayed. Instead, the finance minister will be unveiling a one-year economic outlook based on the current situation.
It will provide certainty for hospitals, schools, municipalities, and other partners for the year to come. Our approach will include increased resources for the healthcare system, direct support for people, and action to protect jobs and our economy.
The Premier says many will be eligible for EI, and the province is reviewing access to emergency assistance for those who aren't able to meet basic living expenses.
We're prepared to do whatever it takes. And we are taking every step possible to slow the spread of this virus.
There's no timeline on when the legislation could be passed, but the Premier says he's working with other parties to try and get it done as soon as possible. He's also urging people to stop panic purchasing, saying there's enough food, essential items, and yes, even toilet paper to go around. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Nationally, the situation has become more dire, and there is growing alarm about the spread of the disease. Today, health officials in BC announcing 3 more deaths at the same long-term care home where Canada's first COVID-19 death happened. In an effort to contain the virus, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced today new travel restrictions with some notable exceptions.
We will be denying entry to Canada to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents. This measure will carve out some designated exceptions, including for air crews, diplomats, immediate family members of Canadian citizens, and, at this time, U.S. citizens.
Trudeau himself is in his 4th day of self-isolation at home after his wife tested positive for the virus last week. The new restrictions on entry to Canada come into effect on Wednesday. All Canadians traveling abroad are advised to come home now, but almost all international flights will be funneled to airports in Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. All international travelers will face stepped-up screening by Canada Border Service agents and are expected to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And everyone is being asked to remain home as much as possible to minimize the risk of spreading the virus. Those urgent calls to get home are being met with canceled flights and numerous international borders closing. Kelda Yoon spoke with Canadians stuck abroad.
Let me be clear. If you're abroad, it's time for you to come home.
The Prime Minister reiterating to Canadians today to return while they still can. Rakan Alarin, though, is stuck in Morocco after that country suspended international flights.
I came here on vacation like 2 weeks ago, and then the whole world just basically stopped. I know that the Canadian Embassy has tweeted out that EasyJet or Transavia may have flights. I've been checking, nothing.
For now, the Windsor resident is holed up in his hotel room. He says he knows of many other Canadians in the same situation.
So what I would really love to know if there's a point where Canadians can just meet to make it easier, if there's some sort of repatriation.
To help asymptomatic Canadians return home, our government will set up a support program for Canadians who need to get on a plane.
The federal government is in the process of figuring out exactly how that will work, adding that repatriation is not out of the question. It is also setting up a fund for Canadian travelers who need help with the costs of returning home. That would be helpful for the Sharmas. The family of 4 from Kingston traveled to India in February so that their relatives could meet their latest addition, 10-month-old Arika. Abhishek Sharma says his family wants to return home immediately instead of waiting for their scheduled flight in April. The problem, though, is the cost.
The nearest available date to me was 23rd of March, which was 1 week from now. And I have to pay difference in fare, which was around $9,000. Which is in addition to what I already paid. I already paid around $7,200 for my return flight. I don't have that much money.
He says he and his wife are worried about staying any longer.
The biggest concern is like if the flights get cancelled, then we have to stay here for extended period of time.
Ottawa says their fund will also include money to help cover the basic needs of those who have to wait to return. It says more details about this assistance program will be announced in the coming days. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Time now for a first look at your weather forecast with Suzanne Leonard. And Suzanne, it was a beautiful day as I was walking to work today. What's on tap for tomorrow?
Well, I hate to break it to you, but it's the last Monday of winter.
Ah, darn.
I knew you would be sad about that. Thought I'd do a quick roundup of what's going on across the country. You'll see a lot of single digits, a couple of double digits too. A little below, and of course we were a little above 0 today. So the last official Monday of winter with the spring equinox coming up on Thursday. These are the highs that we got to, and 4 or 5 degrees is about average for this time of year. We got to -1 in Ottawa. Big day there, of course. A couple of showers. In fact, quite an active weather week at times, but I guess the good timing is that it's largely coming overnight tonight. So a couple of passing showers for us, as purple does mean a little bit of snow, high terrain to the north and northwest of the GTA, Barrie, Alliston, Caledon, that sort of thing. We clear out tomorrow. We may have a morning shower. The winds get a little breezy. Crisp, we're going to be a little warmer tomorrow. That is that mix again in the city. Rain showers, spotty, nothing serious.
Warmer sounds nice to me, although today didn't really feel like winter.
Good for you.
Thanks, Suzanne. We'll check in with you later.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
All right, after the break, with the healthcare system already feeling the strain, what if you need to see your doctor for something non-COVID related? Important tips you'll want to consider coming up next. As facilities all over the city are closing amid COVID-19 concerns, one of Toronto's biggest food banks is trying to stay open.
There's hundreds, upon thousands of people that experience poverty in the city of Toronto that need access to food banks, and we want to make sure they continue to have access in food banks. So we're just popping up an emergency tent so those beneficiaries can still come in and still get access to their food.
So tents were set up at the Daily Bread Food Bank, meant to separate volunteers and staff handling the food from the community as much as possible. Supplies were donated by Global Medic, all in the hopes of keeping the food bank operating throughout the pandemic.
I was a little afraid because of all of the crowds. There's always a large number of people at the food bank who use the food bank, but they have a great system working today where they bring the food out in boxes for you.
Global Medic says the tents will stay in place for as long as the food bank needs. We're already seeing the effects of COVID-19 on the healthcare system, increased visits to emergency rooms and epically long wait times for telehealth services. But what if you need to see your doctor for other important health matters? Natalie Nanowski has tips for navigating care in times of crisis.
This Etobicoke clinic is empty, but doctors say they're tending to many of their patients for their ongoing health concerns, either through video chats or phone calls.
There's obviously limits to what you can do by telephone, so there's some things that you can't do. You can't physically examine somebody, but you can certainly get a lot of information about what may or may not be happening. And give them advice.
Like many Toronto clinics, it's waiving certain fees for prescription refills, whatever limits people's time in public and helps with social distancing.
So for regular, non-essential or routine, whatever else we're calling it, I would recommend that people cancel those appointments.
If you do feel sick, clinics across the city have posted warnings, telling patients to call before coming inside. Over the last few days, Telehealth Ontario has been overwhelmed. In some cases, wait times have reached 8 hours.
We have just ramped that up significantly, adding more people who are health professionals to that call list so that people can receive answers in a timely manner.
Still, the additional 130 nurses may not be enough. If you believe you may have COVID-19, the province is urging people to use its website. There's a checklist. Do you have a fever or difficulty breathing? Have you traveled outside of Canada or come in contact with someone who has the disease? If not, you probably have the common cold. But you should stay home anyway. Other medical providers are also limiting their services. The College of Dentists and the College of Optometrists are telling their members to cancel non-essential services. Only emergency treatments should continue.
Since this is an ever-evolving situation, health officials are telling people to call ahead and figure out the best way to see your doctor if that's what you need to do. You can also go online to the provincial and federal websites for the latest updates. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, to keep up to date on the COVID-19 outbreak, we've got everything you need to know online. You can head to cbc.ca/Toronto. And here's a live shot of our city skyline. A little wet and chilly out there tonight, but the first day of spring is just days away. Suzanne Leonard joins us again with a look at your long-range forecast coming up after the break. Let's get Suzanne back in the mix now. And Suzanne, tomorrow a bit of a warm up, but will it be sunny? Please.
We'll get some sunshine.
Well, that's good.
So
I'll
you're
take a
welcome.
little bit of sun.
And we've got some double-digit highs coming this week. In fact, the trend overall this week is for warmer than average temperatures. And then looking ahead, long-range forecast models suggesting a rather cool but dry weekend, whereas we'll have it warmer and a little wetter, a little more unsettled during the week this week. Let's get to some perspective to start things off. This gives you a bit of an idea where we typically be at this time of year. We were right on average with our +4. We'll be above average for temperatures tonight. We're going to settle at around the 0 mark. Record lows and highs, record snow as we open the almanac for this March the 16th. Forecast winds. Winds give a great indication of which direction or where we are relative to an incoming system. The direction of the wind tells us that. So you'll notice that the winds generally out of the west-southwest. We got our weak passing system tonight, and then tomorrow or Wednesday rather, the winds start to come out of the east in advance of the next system. So easterly winds, when you're in the Golden Horseshoe, often that's a cool wind because of the wind coming off Lake Ontario. Often Hamilton's noticeably cooler than, say, Toronto, Mississauga, Grimsby as well, and St. Catharines, Niagara-on-the-Lake when you get an east-northeast wind. There is a depiction, one of the forecast models, showing the showers mainly staying to the south of Toronto, south of the city through Oakville, but I think that's a little optimistic. We will have some scattered showers and a few scattered wet flurries or a brief bit of snow. Trace accumulations not going to stick around. That's primarily overnight tonight, and then tomorrow morning we start to clear out. Tomorrow afternoon, better chance of sunshine. There are clear skies as we go into the evening hours. Cloud cover thickens up. Another system rolls by Wednesday overnight, and it will be spotty showers. But if we pull back to a broader picture here, you can see the gathering storm to our south on Thursday night, that freeze line, snow in northern Ontario like there's been today, and that rain-snow line, that track of the low further north from the Golden Horseshoe, meaning we've got a much better chance of getting into some more significant rain by the end of the week. Now, I know you want to know about temperatures and the spring equinox. Oh, it's coming up on Thursday night. So we've got our last couple of days officially of winter. The spring equinox on Thursday night at 11:49 p.m. First full day of spring and first weekend of spring. Officially speaking, Chris, again, there's our warm up, there's our cool down.
All right, looking pretty good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Raptors superstar Serge Ibaka got a clean bill of health today. He's been in self-isolation since last week, but he's making the most of it.
Like I said again, I'm just trying to stay in shape, and I'm going to do the same. Be safe.
Ibaka there showing his Instagram followers how he's been keeping busy during his isolation, hitting the home gym. All Raptors players and staff have been self-isolating since last week as a precaution after they all tested negative for COVID-19. The players and staff underwent testing after playing the Utah Jazz, which has 2 of their players with confirmed cases of the virus. The COVID-19 outbreak doesn't have everyone feeling cooped up. After the break, we'll take you along this penguin field trip, and you'll want to stick around for that. Ripley's Aquarium is the latest attraction in Toronto to announce they're temporarily closing. Ripley's saying it made the decision following advice from government health officials and to ensure the safety and well-being of their team members, guests, and animals. No timeline on when they may reopen to the public. Amid the rush on grocery stores we've been seeing lately because of the coronavirus, some companies are stepping in to make sure the most vulnerable can get what they need, including Shoppers Drug Mart. The company tweeting this tonight, saying they're dedicating the first opening hour of shopping at their stores to customers who need assistance or consideration. They say they'll also offer the 20% Seniors Day discount on regular priced items for the first hour each day, every day. Our neighbors in Chicago are in the same boat as us, dealing with shutdowns at businesses and attractions, and not everyone hates it. Like these guys, the penguins at Chicago's Shed Aquarium went on a little field trip to explore the building after it closed its doors to visitors amid coronavirus fears. This little guy named Wellington seemed pretty excited to meet the fish in the Amazon exhibit. The zoo says while it may be a strange time for us humans, these days feel normal for the animals, with caregivers providing new experiences for animals to explore and express their natural behaviors. Very cute to see. And that is our show for tonight. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. And remember, you can catch up on all of the day's news by going onto our website at cbc.ca/Toronto. I'll see you back here again at 11 tomorrow night. Have a great night.